What to do when you want to quit. There comes a moment in every challenging journey when you want to give up. Maybe you've been learning English for months or years, and you still feel like you're not good enough. Maybe you've been working toward a goal, and progress feels impossibly slow. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're frustrated. Maybe you've tried so hard, and it still feels like you're not getting anywhere. In that moment, quitting seems like the easiest option. It seems like the only way to stop the frustration and disappointment. But before you make that decision, before you walk away from something you once cared about, I want to talk to you. I want to share some thoughts about what to do when you want to quit. Because that feeling, as painful as it is, doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can actually be a turning point if you know how to work through it. First, let me say this. Wanting to quit is normal. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's just part of doing something difficult. Everyone who has ever accomplished anything meaningful has wanted to quit at some point. Athletes want to quit during brutal training sessions. Artists want to quit when their work doesn't turn out the way they imagined. Students want to quit when the material feels overwhelming. Business owners want to quit when things get hard. This feeling is universal. You're not alone in experiencing it, and you're not failing just because you feel this way. The important thing is what you do with that feeling. Do you act on it immediately, or do you pause and examine it? When the urge to quit hits you, the first thing I want you to do is nothing. That might sound strange, but hear me out. Don't make any big decisions when you're feeling frustrated, tired, or emotional. Those feelings are temporary, but quitting is permanent. If you quit today, you can't unquit tomorrow when you're feeling better. So give yourself at least 24 hours before you make a final decision. Tell yourself, I feel like quitting right now, and that's okay. But I'm not going to decide anything today. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. This simple pause can change everything. Often, the overwhelming urge to quit fades after a good night's sleep or a break from whatever is frustrating you. You wake up the next day, and things don't seem quite as hopeless. You remember why you started. You remember what you're working toward. The problem that seemed impossible yesterday might seem manageable today, but if you quit in the heat of the moment, you lose the chance to feel that shift. So, step 1, pause. Don't act on the feeling immediately. Step 2, figure out why you want to quit. This is important because not all reasons for wanting to quit are the same. Sometimes we want to quit because we're genuinely on the wrong path. Maybe the goal we're chasing isn't actually meaningful to us. Maybe it was someone else's dream, not ours. Maybe our circumstances have changed, and this goal doesn't fit our life anymore. If that's the case, then quitting might actually be the right choice. Walking away from something that isn't serving you isn't giving up. It's making a wise decision about how to spend your time and energy. But more often, we want to quit for a different reason. We want to quit because things are hard, because we're not seeing results fast enough, because we made a mistake or experienced a setback, because we're comparing ourselves to others, because we're tired or discouraged. These are temporary problems, not permanent reasons to quit. If you quit every time things get hard, you'll never accomplish anything challenging. And the most worthwhile things in life are usually challenging. So ask yourself honestly, why do I want to quit? Is it because this goal truly doesn't matter to me anymore? Or is it because I'm having a hard moment in a journey that still matters? There's a big difference between the two. If your answer is the second one, if you still care about what you're working toward but you're just struggling right now, then you probably shouldn't quit. You probably just need to adjust your approach or give yourself some support. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a woman named Sarah who was learning to play guitar. She'd always wanted to play, and when she finally started taking lessons as an adult, she was excited. But after about 6 months, she hit a wall. Her progress slowed down. Her fingers hurt. The songs she wanted to play still seemed impossibly difficult. She practiced and practiced, but didn't seem to get any better. She felt frustrated every time she picked up her guitar. And one day, she decided she was done. She wanted to quit. She told herself she just wasn't musical, that this was a waste of time, that she should focus on something else. But before she quit, she did something smart. She talked to her guitar teacher about how she was feeling, and her teacher asked her a simple question. Do you still love music? Do you still want to be able to play? Sarah thought about it, and the answer was yes. She did still want to play. She still felt excited when she heard a beautiful song and imagined herself playing it. The problem wasn't that she didn't care anymore. The problem was that she was exhausted from pushing herself too hard. She'd been practicing an hour every day, trying to force progress, and it had stopped being fun. She'd turned something she loved into a source of stress. Her teacher suggested a change. Instead of an hour of intense practice every day, what if she practiced just 15 minutes? But during those 15 minutes, she should only play things she enjoyed. No drills, no exercises, just songs she liked, even if she played them imperfectly. Sarah was skeptical, but she tried it. And something shifted. With less pressure and more enjoyment, she started looking forward to practice again. She stopped obsessing over her mistakes. She started having fun with music again. And, ironically, once she relaxed and stopped trying so hard, her playing actually improved. She didn't quit. She just changed her approach. And years later, she's still playing guitar, something that brings her joy regularly. This is an important lesson. Sometimes when you want to quit, what you really need is not to abandon your goal but to change how you're pursuing it. Maybe you're pushing yourself too hard. Maybe you need to take a break. Maybe you need to try a different method or get help from someone. Maybe you need to adjust your expectations. Maybe you need to reconnect with why you started in the first place. These adjustments can make all the difference between quitting and continuing. Here's another thing to consider when you want to quit. You might be closer than you think. There's something called the dip in learning and growth. The dip is that period where things feel hard and progress feels slow, right before you're about to break through to a new level. It's the darkest point before the dawn. And many people quit during the dip, not realizing they were actually close to a breakthrough. If they'd just pushed through a little longer, they would have reached a point where things suddenly got easier and more rewarding. but they gave up too soon. I've seen this happen with English learners so many times. Someone studies for months, and their progress feels slow. They understand more than they did before, but they still can't express themselves the way they want. They still make mistakes. They still feel frustrated. And they think, this isn't working. I'm never going to be fluent. So they quit. But if they'd kept going for just a few more months, they would have hit a point where things start clicking, where their speaking becomes more natural, where they understand more without having to translate, where they start thinking in English. They were so close, but they quit right before the breakthrough. So if you're in the dip, if things feel hard right now, consider the possibility that you might be closer to progress than you realize. Don't quit in the dip. Push through it. Give it a little more time. You might surprise yourself with what happens next. Now, let's talk about what you can do practically when you feel like quitting. First, remind yourself why you started. Go back to your original motivation. Why did you begin this journey? What did you hope to achieve? Write it down if you need to. Look at old journal entries or photos from when you started. Reconnect with that initial spark of motivation. Sometimes we get so caught up in the struggle that we forget why we cared in the first place. Reminding yourself can reignite that sense of purpose. Second, break your big goal into smaller pieces. Sometimes we want to quit because the overall goal feels overwhelming. I'll never be fluent in English. I'll never finish this project. I'll never reach that level. But you don't have to do everything at once. You just have to do the next small thing. What's one tiny step you can take today? Just one. Not the whole journey, just the next step. Focus on that. When you break things down into manageable pieces, they feel less impossible. Third, celebrate how far you've come. We tend to focus on how far we still have to go and ignore how far we've already traveled. But look back for a moment. Think about where you were when you started. Think about what you couldn't do then that you can do now. You've learned. You've grown. You've made progress, even if it doesn't feel like enough. Acknowledge that. Be proud of that. You're not at the beginning anymore. You're farther along than you think. Fourth, get support. Talk to someone who believes in you, a friend, a family member, a teacher, a mentor. Tell them you're struggling and you feel like quitting. Sometimes just saying it out loud helps. And often, the other person can offer perspective or encouragement that you can't see for yourself. They can remind you of your strengths. They can help you problem solve. They can simply be there with you so you don't feel alone in the struggle. You don't have to do this by yourself. Fifth, give yourself permission to take a break. Not quitting, just resting. Sometimes we want to quit because we're exhausted. We've been going and going without stopping, and we're burned out. If that's you, it's okay to pause. Take a few days or even a week off. Do something completely different. Rest your mind and body. Then come back and see how you feel. Often, that break is all you need to restore your energy and motivation. Rest is not the same as quitting. Rest is how you keep going long term. And finally, if after all of this, you still want to quit, ask yourself one more question. Will I regret this? Imagine yourself 6 months or a year from now. If you quit today, how will you feel when you look back? Will you be relieved that you let go of something that wasn't right for you? Or will you regret giving up on something that mattered? This future perspective can be clarifying. It can help you distinguish between a wise decision to change direction and an impulsive decision you'll regret. Here's what I know to be true. The people who achieve their goals aren't necessarily the most talented or the most naturally gifted. They're the ones who didn't quit. They're the ones who felt like quitting, maybe many times. But they kept going anyway. They found ways to push through the hard moments. They adjusted when they needed to. They rested when they needed to. They asked for help when they needed to. But they didn't quit. And because they didn't quit, they eventually reached their goals. You have that same choice. When you feel like quitting, and you will feel that way sometimes, you can choose to keep going. Not forever, not blindly, but thoughtfully. With self-compassion, with adjustments, with support. You can choose to see the urge to quit as information, not as a command. It's your mind telling you something is hard or frustrating or not working. Okay, that's useful information. Now, what can you do about it? How can you make it better? How can you keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time? Wanting to quit is not the end. It's a moment, a feeling, a challenge. And like all moments and feelings and challenges, it will pass if you let it. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Pause, reflect, adjust, rest if you need to. But don't quit on something that matters to you just because it's hard right now. Hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard just means you're doing something worthwhile, and you're strong enough to keep going. I believe that, and I hope you'll believe it too.